Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sage for those of you who don't know me, and in today's video we're gonna drive on over a couple mountains away to a friend's house who just moved back up here. She needed some help with her kitchen. Things just weren't working so well for her. It was hard to function in this space. She didn't really have any systems set up in place, and that just kind of makes it frustrating when you're trying to work in a certain space. She asked me to help, so I told her of course I would, and this is what we did. The first thing we did is purged. Basically, we cleared the stuff out of her cabinets, put it on the counter, went through each and every single item. We checked expiration dates and chucked things that weren't good anymore. We also got rid of things that she didn't use or wasn't going to use. The money was already gone. She wasn't going to get it back. Just let stuff go. We also relocated the stuff that didn't really belong in the space. Underneath her kitchen sink is a perfect example of this. Look how jam-packed it was. It was full of things that belonged in the garage or other rooms in her house, things that were expired, and things she didn't even use. So 10 minutes of going through stuff and adding a shelf and organizing things in their own bin, and look how much of a difference it is. If you're not so sure that you're ready to actually purge something, then you can put it in a bin and stow it somewhere. And in a few months, if you haven't used it, it's okay to chuck it. The next thing we did is I asked her how she functions in the space. Where does she do what in the space? Where does she spend the most time? For instance, on this side of the stove is where she spends most of her time. So that's where I'm going to put most of her most used items. This side of the stove, I'm going to put her least used items, like her appliances. The most used items need to be in the most easily accessible spots. Take this cabinet, for instance. Before we started organizing, she used this cabinet, which is close to the stove, as storage for her baking dishes, even though she used her pots and pans more often, and they were farther away and in a space that was too small for them with no real organization for them. So now the baking cabinet is now the pots and pans cabinet, because that makes more sense. She uses it more, so it's closer to where she's using it. I just added this little riser that's actually for bowls, but I use them for pots and pans in my house, and it was perfect for her house. It makes it so easy for a one in and one out system. It's easy to grab and easy to put away. The simpler the organizing system you set up, the easier it is to maintain. If it's easy to do something, you're more likely to do it. And if it's harder to do something, then you're not as likely to do it. And that's when things get messy. And you're going to want to make sure that you put the most used items in the most front of each cabinet. That doesn't mean that the space in the back is going to go to waste. That just means that's where you put the least used items, like the turkey roasting pan or that bowl you only use at Super Bowl. And so in the cabinet next to that, the one where she had her pots and pans, we're going to actually set up a space for all of the taller and harder to store items. She had this little holder. It's actually for pot lids, but she purged a bunch of her pots, so it's now going to become just an organizer for these odds and ends. They're kind of awkward to store, and nestling things can be kind of a pain in the butt. Easy in, easy out creates a more organized system. Now, here's an example of a not so easy to access space. It's the cabinet above her hood range, and because it's not so easy to access, we're going to put the stuff that she doesn't grab for every day. For things like vases, you only use those a couple times a year, so you don't need to access them very easily. Next up is bins. Bins are your best friends when it comes to organizing. They are a huge part of creating a home for everything in this space, and that is the key to organizing. If you take the time to separate chaos into smaller pieces, then it makes it much easier to find what you're looking for later. You only have to look in this one spot because that's where you always put it. And if it's not there, then you know it's in the other spot that it could be. Take this drawer, for instance. She keeps all of her water bottle and drink lids. She's like obsessed with water bottles. She has like 1 million. So I took the time to put in a bunch of containers and separate like items with like items. That way it makes it much easier for her to just open the drawer and find what she's looking for or put what she's needing to put away. And because it's next to the cabinet that she has all of her drink cups, it's easy for her to just grab what she needs. Another type of container can be a shelf. She put all of her spices that she uses most often on this little shelf, and it's easy for her to grab. Her bulk items and her not so used items are in another space. She also has this little bucket that she puts the utensils that she grabs for most frequently, like the stuff she tends to use every week, in that little bin. Bins are awesome for pantries. I just added a couple of bins in here. One is for all of her sauces. When she needs one, she can just look in here. If she doesn't have it in this space, it's not going to be somewhere else. That means she doesn't have it. When she needs to look for a dinner item, she can pull down this whole bin and she can look through all the boxes and easily put it away. And again, if she doesn't have it here, she knows that she doesn't have it. She also created an extra box for snacks that her son needs to ask for. And next to that is her box of sides. Things like, those little pasta packets that come in a pouch that you just make some, pasta really fast to go with the chicken, or the rice packets, or the little cheese packet that you put on the broccoli, She's not going to look for it somewhere else. If she has it, it's in this tote, or she doesn't have it at all and she can't make it. You can also use upside down box lids as like little makeshift drawers. I put her appliances on the bottom shelf on these, and it just makes it easier to pull them out without having to bend over or break your back. Another way to use bins is in those hard to reach spaces. Those abysses that are in the back of odd shaped cabinets. If you just take a basket or a bin and you put things that you don't use so often and you just shove it in the back, it makes it easy to pull them all out, and that way nothing gets lost in the abyss and nothing goes to waste. Another tip for you is if you're going to store stuff up high and you're short like I am, get bins with holes in them, whether they already come with holes or if you cut a hole like I did here on this cardboard box. I reinforced it with some tape, but it helps me just be able to hook my finger in and pull it down, and that's awesome. I would definitely store stuff I don't use often up high, but the holes definitely make it easier. Next tip is to give everything a home. And you may be saying, isn't that what organizing is? Well, yes, but I mean, you literally need to give every single item a home. Like, it's permanent home. Take my canned goods. I have a specific way I put my canned goods in cabinets. I did the same thing in hers here, and it just makes it easier when you go to find a product when you're making dinner. If it's not in that specific spot, you're not going to waste time looking for it anywhere else. It's in that spot or you don't have it. Next up is setting up a kid-friendly zone or zones in your home. Spaces that they can reach easily. Take, for instance, this snack bin, snack glass jar that she has. She put all of the treats that her son can reach and choose from when he gets home from school and puts his stuff away, and he doesn't really have to ask. He just goes and gets what he needs. We also created a drawer with all of his drink cups so that he can get his own drinks. This helps him be self-reliant, and it also teaches him responsibility because he can help put the dishes away too because he can reach it. We also created a cabinet that has treats and drinks that he can have. He has to ask permission for them, but he can reach them himself and he can grab them because they're at his level. And my last category is miscellaneous tips, just those odd bits of information, like command hooks. Command hooks are great for mounting on the inside or even the outside of cabinets, like she has here for her, hot pads. It makes them easy to grab. You can also put things that you don't use so often in a drawer or a bin. Storing this type of item separate and away from your everyday items makes it much easier to grab something that you need every day. You're not futzing and fuddling and pushing all of the items that you don't use every day around in a drawer. It just keeps things easier to manage. She also has a drawer with all of her saran wrap and her little baggies, and putting them all in the one spot close to where she makes her son's lunch and puts away food makes it so much easier. She also created a drinks drawer next to where she makes her drinks. That way, it's easy to get to it and stuff doesn't get left on the counter because the drawer is right there. She also had this little thing I thought was so cute. She took a paper towel core and cut it, and she put the cord for her bean pod in there and labeled it, and she just stores it with her junk drawer, and I thought it was awesome. Another tip is if you buy stuff in bulk like she does, you can store the bulky part of it somewhere else and put a few of that item near where you use it. That just makes things a little bit easier. My last tip is that if you have an appliance or a gadget that has a bunch of bits and bobs to it, then store it all together, like in a drawer or in a bin. That way it's all together and nothing gets lost. Well, that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked this video and found something fruitful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like it, please hit that subscribe button. And would you do a girl a favor and hit that share button with all of your friends and family? Well, thanks for stopping by my house. I'll see you next time. So today's extra footage is of my friend's son who was watching us film the video and decided he wanted to film too. Okay, so first you fold it in half. You did a good job, bud.